Jaedyn, your moderator for today. We are here today to talk about one of the greatest challenges that people face, which is mental health. It affects you from your early childhood to adolescence to adulthood, all the way to your senior years. May was Mental Awareness Month, and yet so many people still find it very hard to accept or talk about that they have a mental health illness. Why is that? Dr. Mance, clinical psychologist and also assistant professor at Howard University, said that it wasn't until this past decade did she notice that there was growing public interest in mental health awareness. Why is that? Well, these are some questions and more that we hope to answer this afternoon. Let's start by looking at this short clip.
Day to day. How we cope with our ups and downs of life. Having good mental health is not about having no mental health problems. It's about feeling good enough about ourselves. Being able to do the things that really matter to us. And having the resilience to deal with the difficult situations we all experience in life. We can have all sorts of mental struggles such as relationships, finances, health, pandemic, studies, or moving. And sometimes these stresses in life can take over our mental health. It can mean feeling worried or afraid all the time, feeling numb like nothing else matters, or losing touch with your surroundings and feeling lonely. You are not alone. Nearly 1 in every 5 American adults will have a mental health condition in any given year. 46% American will have a diagnosable mental health condition, and half of those people will develop conditions by age 14. While there are things that challenge our mental health, there are things that can support it too. These things won't necessarily prevent challenges to our mental health. They can help us cope with what life throws at us. They can help us achieve balance in our mental health. Mental health can be complex because our experience of it is personal and unique. We know the more that we normalize conversations about our mental health, the easier it will be for young people and adults to seek the support they need when they need it. That is why iMatter is dedicated to create opportunities to promote education, awareness, and understanding, and reduce stigma about mental health. All of us deserves to tell ourselves I do matter every day. Let's start today. Break the stigma and engage with others. Seek support. Connect with family and friends. Because you matter.
I now have the privilege to introduce the co-founders of iMatter and also mental health advocates Kimberly, Chang, and Jaedyn Tsang. They're also the organizers of this afternoon's session.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for the warm welcome, Ellen. Hi, my name is Kimberly Chang.
And I'm Jaedyn Tsang, and we're so glad to have you join us today for this very important topic.
Important topic indeed, but can I also say it's a hard topic to address, right? I think when I was a young adult and there were people who were struggling with mental health illness, they didn't want to talk about it because they were afraid of being considered weak. Can I say that?
Yes, Ellen, you can. In the past and still today, there's a lot of stigma surrounding mental health, such as weakness, like you just said, incompetence, inability to be successful at school or work, being socially excluded, being bullied, the list continues on. Stigma also differs between cultures. It wasn't until recently that mental health awareness started increasing because of celebrities like Michelle Obama, Lady Gaga, and Naomi Osaka who started sharing their personal stories.
Stigma is really hard to battle. So let me ask you, if I can say, at a young age, what made you two decide to attack this big topic? I bet there's a personal story.
Yes. Well, for both of us, and I assume for a lot of people in the audience today, the pandemic greatly impacted our mental health. And so from our experience, the growing between our friends and I. And so at the same time, we realized that there are many students like us who are going through the same problem, which is why we wanted to start iMatter. And then also during the COVID pandemic was like the George Floyd incident, which opened all of our eyes to the prevalent racism that was going on and still occurring today. And then there's also the anti-Asian hate crimes, which increased tremendously.
Kimberly, thank you for sharing your story, and I can only imagine how hard it is to be stuck at home, not with your friends, and then having all these things unexpectedly happen all around us. Friendships are great to have, but they are tricky to maneuver, but even harder during a pandemic when you're all stuck at home, correct?
Right.
So your personal experiences, I feel like, must have really led you to want to help others today. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm sure many of us in this room can resonate that when during the pandemic and also seeing what was going on mainstream news and also the anti-Asian hate, that we probably also felt a lot of pain, a lot of fear, a lot of unknownness, and many of us probably did not know, and it was beyond what we could handle. Kimberly, why did you guys start iMatter?
Well, we started iMatter because we wanted to create a platform where we can openly name the symptoms of mental health and also at the same time address the stigmas that many of us are dealing with today. And lastly, we also wanted to create a platform to promote the many coping methods that many of us use.
And we're so glad that you did. Jaedyn, I want to go back to stigma because you were talking about stigma, but today when we're looking at our audience, I would like you to speak directly in connection to the AAPI's community.
Of course. As an Asian American or Pacific Islander, when faced with challenges like cultural precedence, the model minority myth, or the perpetual foreigner effect, it not only leads us to more likely develop mental health illness, but also to not seek help. This can be a dangerous spiraling effect. We need to break the silence of mental health in the AAPI community and other communities as well. Mental health illness is not a sign of weakness or embarrassment, but is real and treatable, but only if you first recognize and acknowledge the symptoms and second seek help.
So well stated. We have to break the silence to mental health. Kimberly, I wanted to ask you, how has iMatter brought awareness to this topic then?
Well, to be completely honest, Ellen, this was not an easy feat for us, especially during the COVID lockdowns, but we also didn't want to wait. So what we did was we expressed mental health through art therapy. So we hosted the art contest, and the theme was Mental Health Matters to Me. And we received incredible entries that depicted fear, anxiety, anger, sadness, and uncertainty. And so this was not only a great way for the participants because it was like a wonderful outlet for them, but it also gave us the opportunity to spread about mental health awareness and educate the public.
Clearly, mental health is a struggle. When everyone, if you look at these artwork, you can definitely see these teens are expressing their experiences during the pandemic. And I'm so glad that iMatter was able to provide an outlet for them during that time. So now I understand that you two have exciting developmental news in iMatter that you would like to share with everyone. So if we could all look at a screen, please.
This is the iMatter app. Every user will create a login. Type in your email, desired password, and click Create Account. Let's log in. On the top right of the app, there's a hamburger that will take you to About, Awareness, and Tech Support. That will open your email to contact us. Back to the home screen. On the bottom there are icons. First is Daily Assessment. You will be able to
because it's web, you can also use it on computer, laptop, or desktop?
Right. This is our detection tracker, and we wanted this app to notify the user every single time their daily emotions, sleep hours, and meals eaten fell out of the recommended range. And so if it did fall out of the recommended range, it would automatically direct them to the Here to Help page, which would lead them to professional assistance.
We also wanted to provide coping methods like exercising, journaling, and breathing for users. It was this research and information that helped me during my concussion. As many of you don't know, I play basketball and it is really important to me. Unfortunately, this past year, I suffered a concussion during a track meet. It was very difficult for me to accept that I needed to take a break and let my body recover. I wanted the quickest recovery schedule. I was afraid of falling behind my teammates, and I dreaded being deconditioned after everything I sacrificed to get to my pre-concussion state. In the beginning, my mental health really took a toll. I could only watch those around me do what I loved most. However, being able to talk about my feelings, stresses, and concerns with my coach, friends, and family helped me get into the right headspace. I was also able to let my brain fully recover, and I was reminded that I can only control what I can control, and that is my rest and recovery.
Thank you, Jaedyn, for sharing your story. It's amazing to see how just your work in iMatter played an influence in your recovery. And girls, I love the detection tracker. I think so many times we're going through our daily lives, but we may not know that we have our unhealthy habits can be influencing or saying something that we need more help to. So that's amazing that you've done that.
Well, yeah, exactly what you said. We wanted iMatter to be a web responsive app that was easily accessible to everyone. And I believe you all should have received a postcard when you entered this afternoon. And if you haven't, it's okay because there are people walking around handing out the postcard. But you can also scan the QR code here, which will lead you to the iMatter app.
And if you don't have a postcard, don't worry. At the end of this, we can make sure everyone can have a postcard so you can have access to the girls' apps and also a website, right, with more information. That's great. Thank you and congratulations, Jaedyn and Kimberly.
Thank you.
Next, in this day and age, youth have so many obligations, and our next presenter is very familiar with this. Please welcome on stage multi-awarded student athlete who has made his own impact on his community through mentorship and leadership programs, Zhang.
Hello everyone, my name is Zhang. Before we get started, I want to give you guys a little introduction about myself. So I'm a rising senior in high school, and I play two main sports, soccer and football, and I want to study economics in college. And I kind of wanted to share with you all today my mental health journey. So this is a picture of me during football season. This is my junior year, and this is our last game. We're playing the California School of Death. If we won the game, we would have won the championship. So a huge game for all of us. Our entire team, myself, my friends, we have put in so much during this entire offseason just to get to this point. And right here, we had just scored a 2-point conversion. I'm all there happy. I'm celebrating. I am so excited. And then, 10 minutes later, reality hit. There I am, bawling my eyes out on my friend's shoulders. It was heartbreaking. That loss, it hurt so much because we had worked so hard for this entire season, sacrificed so much, only to end up like this. And what's worse is that it felt like my family was leaving me. Throughout this entire season, I had made friends, connections, bonds, by running through that extra gaster, doubling down in pain after that extra step coaches makes us do. And seeing that, it made me realize that that was the last time I would take off my cleats with the senior class. That was the last time I'd ever step on a football field with them. That was the last time before they go off to college. It was truly heartbreaking. So after this, I got a period of what many athletes experience actually. It's called post-season depression. And what that is basically for many athletes who work super hard for their sport during their season, after the season ends, it feels like something was taken away from them. There was like a huge gaping hole in my heart where all of my work, all of my efforts just seemed to go to waste. And a lot of my friends also had the same feelings. And every day, I would wake up and I'd tell myself, why am I going to school? If there's no football, if there's nothing that I'm working for, why am I at school? Why didn't I do my homework? Why do I care about anything? That affected how I ate. That affected how I sleep. I had trouble sleeping sometimes. Just staying up all night thinking about football. And it really kind of affected me. And this is what I want to talk about today. Like mentioned before, the CDC estimates that around 1 in 5 Americans struggle with some sort of mental health issue. But before we can even begin this discussion, we should first define what mental health is. The Recovery Village defines mental health as any health disorder that causes a person to experience different behaviors from the norm or an altered mood or pattern of thinking. Now, this mental health problem is a lot more severe in student athletes like me. Before we get there, we're going to have some signs of mental illness. Appetite or sleep changes, which I had, extreme mood swings, chronic low-grade depression, emotional outbursts, unhealthy coping mechanisms, and hallucinations. And as I was saying before, this problem is much more severe in student athletes like me. The higher ed drive found that almost 1 in 4 male athletes and a little over 1 in 3 female athletes struggle with some sort of mental health disorder. But that isn't the worst part. The worst part is that the NCAA reported that almost 50% of student athletes are too afraid to share their mental health issue. And this is what we covered earlier, about the stigma with mental health. And this stigma is extra severe in student athletes. Because think about it, I'm a big football player. The last thing I should be worrying about is how tired I am, how I don't want to step on the field. What I should be worrying about is getting stronger, blowing up that guy in the hole. It's not about how I feel up here, and that's the stigma that many student athletes face. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard of the grind. Working extra hard, pushing yourself to the extra mile. When everyone else goes home, you stay there and you run that extra lap, doing that extra 10 push-ups when nobody else wants to. That's the grind. Well, the grind is good to a certain extent, but there's a very, very fine line between true hard work and pushing yourself over the limits. And it's up to you guys to figure out what that limit is. Because at the end of the day, sure, football might be a huge part of me, but you know what's more important? Myself. I need to be able to figure that out, and that's what all student athletes, coaches, teachers, parents need to understand as well.
So Kevin, thank you for sharing your story. That was really, I could feel like the pain that you felt out of the postseason, and letting us all know that how mental health struggles doesn't just lie with the average, but also with the student athlete, and how there's not enough recognition of that. But you were talking about balance earlier, right? So could you share with all of us, how do you balance between being a student athlete, and I think besides those 2 hats, you probably also have other pursuits and interests. How do you juggle it all?
Yes, of course. Wonderful question. Before I want to get into that, I want to first take you through a day in my life to show you what being a student athlete is like. Okay? So I school every day from 8 a.m. to 2:30. But unfortunately, I live in Temple City and decided to go to a school that's 30 minutes away. Wonderful. Okay, so I have to wake up at 6:30 every day, spend an hour to get ready, get my breakfast in, and the drive to school is around 30 minutes. Pretty hefty. Okay, well then I have football practice every single day from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. 2 hours of grueling work on the field and in the gym. But that's not just it. I have other commitments I gotta do. For me personally, I'm in mock trial. I love mock trial. And that's every Monday and Tuesday from 2:35 to 4:30. At this point, you guys are probably thinking, Kevin, how does this make sense? Did you make a mistake here? There's an overlap, right? You're absolutely right. There is an overlap. Which means I had to find time out of my day to tell my coaches, hey coach, I can't make it to practice today because I have mock trial. I'll make up for the work later. But that's not just it. I don't just do mock trial. I also have other clubs and commitments. And plus the drive home and dinner, that ends at around 6. Well, I'm still a student, right? That means I got homework every night from 6:30 to 9:30. And once in a while, because my teachers dislike it, they'll throw in a test. Let's say on Wednesday and Friday. Well, okay, great. Test on Wednesday and Friday. What does that mean? I got to study extra Tuesday and Thursday night. So boom, there goes another hour for my day. Well, what many of you guys also don't know is that football season is October and November. And for any high school students, they'll also know that the ACT and SAT prep season also just happens to be at the same time. Okay, wonderful. Every single night, there we go, ACT prep. Another chunk of my day gone. Well, that's great and all. There's still a little bit of time left at the night. Do I get that time off? No. I have other extracurriculars I have to do. I teach chess for one, and planning the lessons takes a bit of time. So that takes up the rest of the night. And sometimes on a few certain days, I didn't feel enough with my ACT prep. I'll wake up early in the morning to get that done. So that right there, that is what a student-athlete schedule looks like in the middle of season. And this is an easy week, by the way, because there's no football games there. Usually I have football games once a week, but this is just assuming a light practice week. That's light. So the question was, how can I deal with this? And I have two main strategies for how I cope with it. The first one is getting enough sleep. Sleep is super, super important to you. As this slide shows, sleep is highly related to stress, anxiety, and ultimately depression. Poor sleep leads to anxiety, which leads to stress, and that once again leads to poor sleep. It's a self-reinforcing cycle that gets worse and worse and worse over time. So my tip for you is to get enough sleep. And as you saw in my schedule, everything cuts off at exactly 12 p.m. And that was my goal, to get to bed before 12 p.m. to get the sufficient amount of sleep. This is a slide of exactly how much sleep you should get. So for student athletes like me, it says 8 to 10. I'll tell you right now, I never got to that goal. I got maybe 6 hours of sleep on a good night, but 8 to 10 is what you should be aiming for. And my second tip is to set good goals. So this is a picture that I actually just pulled online about how to set good goals, being specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. How you go about setting your goals, that isn't up to me. That is completely up to you. But the point is the importance of setting these goals. And there's one main reason: accountability. By setting yourself these goals, it makes you accountable. It gives you a purpose to work this hard. For instance, for that ACT, being accountable and setting a goal means aiming for a certain score. For football, that means getting a certain move down, learning certain plays. For mock trial, that means reading the case, understanding it, and finishing a certain direct or cross-examination. This is what being accountable means. It means to set up goals and doing it, and pushing through to do it. Sorry.
So Kevin, wow. I don't know about you guys, but when I looked at his schedule, I was like, I felt the heat. But I was so impressed with your time management and also your discipline and also your focus on sleep, which Jaedyn and Kimberly, you must agree, which is why you can use their app to track your hours of sleep every single day. But Kevin, so I know you talked about sleep, but as an athlete, do you have some secrets for us today, maybe some exercises that we can do to also help with our mental health?
Yes, absolutely. Wonderful question. So a few things I like to do is, if you guys want to join me, everyone, if you want to like stand up.
Oh yes, let's join everyone. Come on, let's join. Let's all join in.
Okay. The first thing I like to do is breathe. And when you breathe, you want to engage your entire body. It's a little trick I learned from football. So when you breathe in, you push your arms up. So 3, 2, 1. And then breathe out. I heard that. Okay, I just think you guys like it. Let's try that one more time, okay? Breathe in. Breathe out. So these deep breaths give you a new like cycle of oxygen that helps with your brain, how you're thinking. And this is a trick I love to do when I'm in the middle of that 6th sprint and I'm about to die. All right, second one is stretching. So put out your arms and just turn. Go as far as you can. All right, good job, everyone. All right, so these are the 2 tips that I would always do at those nights from like 6:30 to like 12 o'clock when I'm doing my homework, my ACT prep, studying for tests. Every 30 minutes or so, I'd get up, breathe in, breathe out, and do a little bit of stretching. And that's what helps me get through the day, and that's what you guys can also do to help you guys get through your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin, for reminding us how some breathing and stretching can be so useful. I have to say, while I was breathing and stretching just now, my stress when speaking in front of all of you went down. So thank you so much. I really needed that. So everyone, let's give Kevin a round of applause. And thank you all for joining in on those exercises. So next, I want to circle back to Kimberly. I was quite art contest. But it's to my understanding recently that you also collaborated with another meaningful organization. Is that right?
That's completely right. We are so excited about this collaboration. As you all have heard already, iMatter explores the many roles arts can play to encourage positive self-expression and guide effective promotion and treatment. So I'm so happy to announce that we are collaborating with Madhatter today to focus more on senior mental health.
Wow, so first you guys started with teen mental health, and now you're all the way to senior mental health. I can't wait to hear all about it. So let's, without further ado, invite Christie and Kathryn Huang, who are the co-founders of Madhatter organization. Welcome. Okay, so Kathryn, I have to say, when I saw the word Madhatter, I was thinking Alice in Wonderland vibes. But I think maybe it's not that. So can you please tell us what is Madhatter and what do you do?
So Madhatter is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to knitting hats for premature babies in the neonatal ICU. We have expanded globally, and to date we have over 1,700 members and donated over 80,000 beanies to hospitals. While babies are in the NICU, they have several milestones to meet before they are discharged from the NICU. Madhatter Knits helps with one of the three, which is keeping body temperatures without the incubator. So the premature baby hats that we knit help stabilize their body temperature.
Thank you, Kathryn. That is really remarkable, and it's amazing how you were able to touch so many preemies. And I feel like when you're touching the preemies, you're probably touching their parents too, right? But I have to ask, there is a big jump from making beanies for babies, for preemies, all the way to seniors. Christie, can you tell us how you made that big leap?
Yeah, so it really started at the Chinese New Year Festival in Monterey Park. We had attended that day, and then when we went home that night, we realized that there had been a massive shooting at the exact location that we were at just a few hours prior. And then in a few days, 3 to be specific, we learned that there had been another shooting at Half Moon Bay. The thing that really shocked us the most was that both perpetrators, who looked like my grandfather's age, who traveled the same immigrant path, had opened fire on a group of innocent people. And we relented to put these thoughts to rest, but as the nation grieved for the victims and their families, we realized we could have been victims, but the perpetrators were also victims. We rarely discuss and focus on mental health, and we realized that senior citizens were also struggling with mental health during the pandemic. And so we wanted to shift our focus to inviting senior citizens to join us at Madhatter. And so we collaborated with iMatter to kind of promote senior mental health.
You know, that was a very difficult thing that happened, especially for the AAPI community. But how great it is to see and notice that the shooter was also victims, and from there to know that you want to touch seniors. And what a brilliant idea to include seniors in knitting, because when you say most of our seniors are expert knitters as well. I wanted to ask Kathryn, in your current journey toward understanding more about senior mental health and how to make an impact for them, what proved to be obstacles or challenges in that journey?
As we looked into the AAPI community, many seniors were immigrants, and for most they were living in isolation because more than likely their children were not around them to help them. Thus, not only did they have a language barrier, lack of healthcare, lack of transportation to go to healthcare, and in addition there was unprecedented stress from the pandemic and the anti-Asian hate, all adding more stress. While the younger generation could turn to social media, there was a generation gap in which seniors were not adept to this and they were living in social isolation.
You know, it's so true. So many seniors had nothing to turn to because they were stuck at home much longer than the rest of us with the compromised health. I know that today you guys have already started to work in senior citizens. In fact, is it true, I heard that you've had a big increase in the number of senior citizen members. In your campaign to focus on senior mental health, how has knitting impacted their mental health?
So when we shifted our focus to senior mental health, our goal was to invite all of our senior citizens to join Madhatter knits. And research has actually shown that knitting really helps seniors and everyone, but specifically seniors. It allows them to kind of boost their social interaction, help with their hand-eye coordination, boost cognitive functions. It kind of allows them to focus better. And it helps keep their joints limber and helps them relax. In terms of relaxation, 1 in 6 says that it actually helps their muscles relax, and 70% says that they just feel more relaxed in general. It boosts heart health, kind of helps calm the heart rate down because you're kind of doing a nice, simple, repetitive action. And then also helps to give them a sense of purpose, really allow them to kind of give back to the community in a meaningful way. And so with these reasons, we think that it's a really good idea to kind of reach out to more senior citizens and try to get them to join our cause, help the preemies, and also kind of help themselves with their mental health.
You know, Christie, I had no idea there were so many positive aspects to knitting. I was just focused on the final piece the whole time. But please share with us, Kathryn, some of the stories that I'm sure were inspiring during this journey.
So we were very pleasantly surprised to realize that the benefits of knitting that we achieved for the seniors was quite widespread. They write emails to thank us for changing their lives, and they said they've always watched TV, but now they knit at the same time and feel gratitude for being able to make a change for the premature babies. One lady shared how she has a leg problem, and somehow she was able to forget her leg problem while knitting. And she knits afterwards to also help her detox. Many seniors have revealed that they're thrilled to help the babies. The more thank you letters we get, the more motivated we are to share to the senior citizen community.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of these letters, and also thank you, Christie and Kathryn, for the significant impact Madhatter has made on the senior health community. But I have a question. I'm not a senior yet, but if I or any of us who are seniors or not seniors in this room and we want to knit, how can we get started? And if we don't know how to knit, is it hard to knit a beanie?
Very easy, actually. Of course, you can knit with your knitting needles, and if you already know how to knit, that's great. If you don't, we actually provide kits here. We sell them for $20. It's an all-inclusive kit that gives you a loom. Inside also gives you the pick and the needle you need to complete a hat. These are some of the hats that some of our members have made. Here's another cute one. This one's designed. And it's very easy because if you use a loom, which we have tutorials online, we have a pamphlet with tutorials as well. And if you need extra help, you can always reach out to us. One of us will be happy to help you and teach you. It's very easy. What you do is, so it's really kind of the same motion over and over again. You have this loom right here, and then the main thing to keep in mind is you kind of want these 2 rows. So when you first start out, you're kind of starting out with nothing. It's going to be like an empty loom. And to start, it's very easy. You would tie a little knot. I have knitted just a little bit already, but you would tie a little knot here just to keep the yarn anchored, and then you start just creating loops around these pins. So what you do is you wrap the yarn around like this, and you do it all the way around. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'm not going to do the whole thing, but the main thing and the main motion that you will be doing over and over again is you're going to take this bottom row and you're just going to loop it over the pin. And that's what you do all the way around the loom. Same motion over and over again. And next thing you know, you have a hat just like this. And so, very easy.
Wow. Okay, well, sign me up for a loom. And we can all join in and become a tight knit community. You guys get that? Okay. So thank you, Christie and Kathryn. Let's give them a round of applause. Yes, Jaedyn, I understand that iMatter has invited a very special guest today. Is that right?
Yes, we have. Something we wanted to include in our app is a way for users to easily access professional care. There are situations when we need to reach beyond those in our close proximity for help, and that is okay. So today we have specially invited Dr. Green to join us. You're in for a treat.
So without further ado, I'd like to invite with a warm welcome to Dr. Joyce Green. She is an international psychologist, licensed marriage and family therapist, and board certified art therapist. She's also an assistant professor at Loyola Marymount University. And what I found really interesting is right now her current research uses art-based methodologies to examine the experiences of immigration and acculturation impacted by war and displacement from Laos and South Korea. Dr. Green.
Thank you so much, everyone, for having me, and thank you so much for iMatter, Jaedyn, and Kimberly. It's such an honor to be here. And everything that you've heard so far is really integrated with health and mental health from a holistic perspective. As an art therapist, as a marriage and family therapist and psychologist, we know that it's not just about the brain, right? It's about the heart, it's about the spirit, our spiritual connection, our spiritual practice, the way we think, the things that we do. All that in balance together will help foster wellness. And it's also about social connection. The fact that you're all here today, being here, sitting here, and connecting with each other, laughing together, eating together, that also promotes wellness. So I wanted to share a little bit about what I do. Again, I am assistant professor at Loyola Marymount University, Marriage and Family Therapy Department with specialized training in art therapy. And so next slide, please. Okay. Yeah, so what is art therapy? Art therapy doesn't mean that you have to be skilled in art. Art therapy is really about creativity and about using tools for creativity. So next slide, please. So we use different art media, the creative process in a therapeutic and healing way. Clients young and old, and in between, I've worked with babies. I've worked with babies and mothers. I've worked with couples and families, all the way from 0. My oldest client was 95 years old. So there's no age limit to art therapy. And what it does is it improves your self-esteem. It also helps to activate your brain. Not just your brain, but the connection between your brain and your body and your spirit. So what Kevin did today in helping us through a meditation, through a stretch, through awareness, that really helps. And when you combine that with art and creativity, then that also brings it to that next level. Okay, so next slide. So who are art therapists? Go ahead, next slide. Art therapists, so we are trained. We go through a credentialing process. We learn and are trained on how to use art and art therapy for people's mental health, emotional, and physical well-being. Again, we look at the whole person. And we also are guided by ethics. So we have a board, a licensing board, to make sure that we are doing our work ethically. And we can work with all populations. So next slide, please. Okay, where do we work? Next slide. We work everywhere. Okay, so we've worked in hospitals, in schools, veterans clinics. We have private practice, rehabilitation facilities, community clinics, crisis centers, forensic institutions, and senior communities. And I have worked in almost every setting, and I have seen the power and the benefit that art therapy has with all ages. So one thing, next slide. I wanted to also highlight the importance of the visual art. Something about the visual art can activate parts of the brain, right? And the interaction with art materials like knitting, putting things together, drawing, creativity, taking from your imagination can actually heal the brain. So we have there's a lot of research now that shows how utilizing art, especially knitting, and creativity can help calm and reduce stress, reduce depression and anxiety. And so I highly encourage regular practice of art making. Next slide, please. So we know that not only does art reduce levels of stress, lower levels of anxiety, but that physical motion, right, using your left and your right hand together, it stimulates both sides of your brain. And so when you can access that, it can bring healing. And that also that repetitive motion, that simple repetitive motion, moving your hands in a way, knitting, drawing, that also promotes lower levels of stress, helps you to calm, focus, and it also helps you to express in image and not necessarily words, right? Words are so limiting, but if you can look at a picture, if you can draw a picture, then that helps you to convey your emotions. Okay, so what I'd like to do now, for the next slide, I'd like for us to, there's some art materials on your table, there's some half sheets of paper and some colors, and if there's a particular color that you're looking for, I want you to think about when Kevin was doing his exercise on calm, right? Calm and relaxation, I want you to think about, for a moment, right, part of this meditation, reflective practice, when was the last time you felt calm in your body? And let's think about that for a second. What do you recall?
Dr. Jaedyn, sorry, does anyone not have paper or markers or coloring in the middle of your table? You can do some more. If you need it, raise your hand, we can do more.
Great. As soon as you're ready, I want you to think about, right, as part of mental wellness is calming and slowing down your thoughts, slowing down your body. The last time you felt very calm, what do you remember? What did you see? What did you hear? What did you smell? Was there something you could taste? Was it something you could touch? So what I'd like for you to do now is, after a moment of thinking about that image that came up for you, I already have an image in my mind. I'd like for you to take on your half piece of paper, just draw a symbol. It doesn't have to be anything perfect, just an image, just a swirl that represents that image of calm that you see. Just take a few moments to do that. Let your creativity flow. You're feeling those thoughts come in like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not an artist. Push that out of your mind. Allow yourself that freedom to flow. Use the markers. Make a mark, any mark. Whatever feels right. materials and pieces of paper, maybe a notebook, and do this regularly. Think about those positive memories, because the more that we think about the positive, calming memories, that will affect how you feel. Would anybody, I'm just gonna, is it okay if I do this? Yeah. Would anybody like to share their picture? Anybody who's brave? No pressure. Oh, great. Yeah.
Just something briefly. The music that was played just over our luncheon today, they played Wang Feng, right? So it actually evoked emotions, tears, the soldier mentality that we are, that brought us here. So that's what came to my mind, and I experienced that piece of calm and the fellowship that we have with one another. So thank you for the opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Beautiful. Exactly, right? When you take that moment and then there you have an image of that, you can look at it again, and then that reminds you. It's almost like capturing that experience in time, right? And so now every time you look at that picture, you can remember that experience and allow yourself to utilize your 5 senses. Okay. Great.
Dr. Green, thank you so much for sharing that. I have to say I didn't really know a lot about art therapy in hearing what you're saying. If this is an exercise we're doing, I know I was drawing this picture, it was very pretty. As I started drawing, I was thinking, this looks awful. But then you said, don't think about it. And as I draw, I found myself having the biggest smile on my face and how relaxed it was. So thank you for sharing that exercise with all of us.
It really does release, right? It ends up with a release because there is a blockage because of all the judgments, thoughts in our head, the negative thoughts, criticisms. But when you're able to push that away and allow yourself just to free flow, then you're allowing that, the breath, right? The breath in and out, and then through the art, it really does help to calm the body.
Thank you so much. Everyone, let's give a well round of applause to Dr. And now, I'd like to actually invite Jaedyn and Kimberly and Kevin and Kathryn and Christie to join us all back up here for a question and answer time. I think everyone has a mic. Dr. Green, yes, you too. So we have about 5 minutes, and I know that I wanted to make sure that if anyone had any questions for any of our speakers today, please speak up. It's only 5 minutes. Any questions for them? And it's okay if you don't have a question. Oh, great.
Is there any need volunteers?
We love volunteers. Yeah, please join. We welcome one and all.
That's great, yes. And there's ways to sign up, right, for iMatter or Madhatters, or that you can sign up on the list.
Yeah, if you go online to www.madhatterknits.org or
www.imatter.info. We will give you, we'll provide any events you can come to.
The sign up will be very easy on the website.
There's also QR codes on the postcards on the table as well for easy access.
Yeah, this one works.
Madhatter Knits will be located in the back of the table over there.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
And then you also had a question, right?
Is there any kind of help the teenagers handle all kind of stress, like academic, sports, or
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I can kind of talk about like my school at least. Our school, we have a pretty robust program. We have like a Center for Student Life, which we have like a designated psychiatrist actually to talk to our students about how they can deal with like mental health issues and like stress, homework, and all that. And then we also have like a variety of clubs on campus. We have like a mental health awareness club as well, and they have meetings like once every 2 weeks, I believe, to talk about mental health and what are some tips and strategies how to like overcome these challenges.
Yeah. Do you guys also want to share your high school or your colleges or their support for mental health?
Yeah, sure. Same thing as Kevin. We also have clubs that you can join. There's like at my school, there's Madhatter Club, and so that's one way you can join your mental health. There's also a mental health club at my school, and then same thing, we have a psychologist.
And then what about at the college level? There's also support, right?
Yeah, at the college level, there's also support. We have, we also have kind of like a student life building that you can go to. There's a lot of resources there. There are peer people. We have like peer advocates who kind of are in each of our dorms, so that people can go to them, ask for help, just talk. A lot of times people want to just have someone to listen to them, and not necessarily have their problems be solved or anything, but it's just nice to be listened to. And so there are people on campus in each of the dorms that allow easy access for that as well.
In addition to peer advocates, there's also therapists. I know at my college they have therapists on Zoom, so you'll be able to sign up like as an appointment basis and just settle your matters there.
And Dr. Green, also.
Yeah, every college does have a student health center, and they integrate physical health and mental health. So you can, college students can sign up to receive services. And then also you can look at any community-based clinic and look at your insurance. The group practice that I work for is Oak Health Clinic, and we do take insurance, Anthem, Optum, and Aetna.
And then Jaedyn and Kimberly, on your app, especially your Here to Help page, you have help, especially for teens, correct?
Yes, we do. If you go on our app into the Here to Help page, you'll see a bunch of resources, and there is one for teens.
Okay. Well, it looks like our Q&A time is up, but thank you everyone for joining us today. And please do take a look at that postcard. Wait, I have one in my back pocket. If you haven't, there's a QR code where you can get more information. And if you have any more questions when you get home, you can also send a message through here on our sign-up list. We can also get in touch with whether it's Madhatter, Dr. Green, or also Kevin. But thank you all.